The Marine raiders were built around a doctrine of coastal raiding with high tempo and clearly defined withdrawal points. At Guadalcanal, they entered a battlefield that did not operate under those assumptions. In 1942, U.S. forces landed on Guadalcanal and seized the Japanese airfield with little initial resistance. But capturing the airfield did not mean controlling the island. Japanese forces did not disappear. They withdrew into the jungle, breaking into small, dispersed groups. Their task was clear: find gaps, infiltrate the perimeter, retake the airfield. While waiting to rebuild strength, they conducted guerrilla actions, sabotage, and supply interdiction, weakening U.S. Marine forces before committing to a larger attack. The terrain did not allow a complete sweep. Dense jungle limited visibility and fragmented formations. At the same time, U.S. forces lacked the manpower to both hold the airfield and control all surrounding access routes. This forced a change in how objectives were held. Instead of waiting for the enemy to appear, U.S. forces began moving into the jungle, striking Japanese assembly areas before they were ready to attack. Marine raiders were not created for jungle warfare. They were designed for coastal amphibious raids, built around speed and rapid withdrawal. But at Guadalcanal, they were the only force available that could leave secured areas, conduct short-duration strikes in the jungle, and return. What Marine raiders carried here was not an optimal choice. It was the direct result of a doctrine placed into the wrong environment. Item 1. Rifle. During this period, Marine raiders were issued rifles based on what the USMC supply system already had available. As a result, two rifle types coexisted within the same formation. The M1903A1 Springfield was the pre-existing platform. It made up the majority of rifles, was issued to most riflemen, and formed the baseline individual firepower of the unit in operation. The M1 Garand appeared later, during an incomplete transition period. It was issued to Marine raiders during early training and initial equipping and entered the formation as supply allowed, alongside the M1903A1, rather than fully replacing it. Neither rifle was selected for a specific mission. They existed in the loadout because they were infantry rifles the USMC supply system could provide at that time. Under amphibious raiding doctrine, both served the same role, providing continuous individual firepower while the formation moved quickly, without disrupting movement tempo during short contact phases. When conditions at Guadalcanal changed, the loadout was not rebuilt from scratch. There was no time, and no alternate equipment system to replace it. As a result, the M1903A1 and the M1 Garand continued to be carried, not because of the new combat environment, but because they were what the unit already had. Item 2. BAR M1918A2. The BAR appeared only in designated positions within the formation. Its firepower was concentrated at the point of contact. When contact occurred in the jungle, engagements did not last long. The decisive phase unfolded within the opening seconds, at close range, where the side that imposed fire first controlled the tempo of contact. The BAR existed to create that moment. As soon as contact occurred, it delivered sufficient firepower to force the enemy down, while the rest of the formation moved, shifted direction, or disengaged. The BAR was not used to sustain prolonged fire. It created a short but heavy window to disrupt the enemy's initial reaction. In dense jungle terrain, where visibility was limited and formations were easily fragmented, the BAR's rapid, concentrated fire kept the unit's operational rhythm from collapsing at the moment contact began. In jungle raid missions, the BAR shaped how the formation acted at the most dangerous instant of engagement. Item 3. Thompson M1928A1 only. A small number of Thompsons were carried, typically assigned to team leadership positions. At very close distances, when targets appeared suddenly and reaction time was compressed, the ability to generate immediate firepower determined whether the unit retained initiative. This weapon produced high bullet density at the moment of contact, keeping the space ahead under control while the formation adjusted movement. Thompson firepower did not operate independently. It was directly tied to leadership positions, where orders and movement were executed during the contact phase. At distances where combat unfolded within direct visual range, the Thompson established a clear unit capability: control at extremely close range, preserving command rhythm and continuous movement the moment contact occurred. Item 4. M1 Carbine. Some officers and senior non-commissioned officers carried the M1 carbine when moving with the formation without serving as primary firepower holders. The weapon was used as a personal defense tool during command, communication, and coordination while operating outside secured areas. Item 5. Telescopic sight. Within the formation, the Unertal 8-power scope appeared only in a very limited number of positions assigned to designated shooters. It was used for observation and precise intervention when targets lay beyond standard engagement ranges. The Unertal 8-power was mounted on the M1903A1 as the bolt-action platform maintained sight stability between shots. The M1 Garand was not suitable for optic mounting at this time. During missions, the Unertal 8-power added a layer of situational control that standard firepower could not provide. Item 6. Pistol. A personal secondary weapon for positions not assigned primary firepower. Used at very close range during moments requiring rapid reaction while commanding, communicating, or moving with the unit. Item 7. Ammunition. Ammunition sustained continuous individual firepower, allowing action to proceed without interruption when engagements extended. Item 8. Bayonet. The bayonet was carried as the final extension of the rifle, used when combat collapsed into contact distance. It did not replace firepower. It existed when firepower no longer functioned. Item 9. Fragmentation grenade. Fragmentation grenades were used to directly affect enemy positions under cover, especially in obscured spaces where small arms fire was ineffective. They were carried to quickly resolve obstacles ahead, preventing the formation from becoming fixed at close contact. Item 10. Smoke grenade. Smoke grenades were used to immediately block visibility, breaking enemy observation when the formation shifted direction, disengaged from contact, or withdrew. They functioned as temporary spatial control tools, allowing movement and adjustment without relying solely on firepower. Item 11. Load-bearing system. Used to keep all essential items in fixed positions on the body. This allowed access to ammunition, grenades, water, and personal equipment without disrupting movement tempo or reaction handling. Item 12. Canteen. The M1910 canteen enabled rapid hydration, preventing disruption to individual movement tempo. Item 13. Carry mode. Used to carry short-term necessities during movement, separating sustainment items from combat equipment. Could be discarded when the formation needed to focus entirely on movement and contact. Item 14. Uniform P41 HBT utilities were the standard USMC field uniform in 1942, used as the base layer for combat and movement. M1942 frog skin was a specialized camouflage system worn over the P41 HBT to alter visual signature in specific context. Item 15. Rain protection ponchos or shelter halves were used to protect personnel and equipment from tropical rain during halts, short rest, or temporary positions. They reduced environmental strain, allowing the formation to maintain operation without weather-induced disruption. Item 16. Helmet system. The M1 steel helmet provided standard protection, deflecting fragments, debris, and falling objects during movement and contact. The utility cap served as a soft head covering when the helmet was not required, maintaining warmth and comfort during rest or non-contact movement. Item 17. Footwear. Boondocker boots and jungle boots were standard USMC footwear, protecting the feet and sustaining mobility. The coexistence of field shoes and garrison shoes reflected a transitional supply state, not different tactical roles. Item 18. Field expedient camouflage. Improvised camouflage made from leaves, mud, and charcoal was used to break body outlines and reduce visual signature. This was not issued equipment, but a field adaptation to reduce detection during movement and observation. Item 19. Edged tools. Fighting knives and machetes were carried for close tasks and field work, from personal defense to clearing paths and handling light obstacles. They reduced reliance on firepower when weapons were unnecessary or unsuitable. Item 20. Navigation tools. Lensatic compasses and waterproof maps maintained direction and positional control. They prevented disorientation, kept movement tempo intact, and supported planned return routes. Item 21, toggle rope. Toggle ropes were utility lines used for obstacle crossing, climbing slopes, and stream crossings. They address short terrain barriers without altering combat formation. Item 22, binoculars. 6x30 binoculars were used for observation and target identification beyond naked eye range, carried by leaders to maintain situational awareness and control movement tempo. Item 23, radio equipment. Carried by a designated radio operator used to maintain communication between patrols and battalion headquarters. Dense jungle degraded signals, often forcing reliance on runners when radio communication failed. Item 24, signal equipment. Whistles and signal flares were used for short-range communication and emergency signaling when voice communication was not possible or advisable. Item 25, timekeeping device. Mechanical watches maintained shared time reference across the formation. They ensured synchronized action and properly timed movement and withdrawal. Item 26, medical. Shell dressings were standard personal medical items, used to stop bleeding and treat initial wounds on site. They stabilized individuals before further medical support, reducing disruption from injury. Item 27, rations. C rations provided energy for short-duration operations. They sustained physical output and reduced dependence on immediate resupply. Item 28, water purification. Halazone tablets were used to treat local water sources, ensuring safe drinking water when resupply was unavailable. They sustained basic survival and prevented mission disruption from logistical limits. Item 29, entrenching tool. Carried to dig individual fighting positions, modify temporary sites, and handle terrain during halts. This equipment existed to allow the formation to stabilize a position for short periods of time, when minimal cover or temporary shelter was required. This loadout reflected the original assumptions about how Marine raiders were expected to fight. Short-duration raids, initiating contact on their own terms, and withdrawing once the mission was complete. At Guadalcanal, those assumptions no longer held. Marine raiders were employed in a prolonged defensive campaign with continuous jungle patrols and contact occurring unexpectedly. The terrain slowed movement, while resupply was disrupted by Japanese naval and air fire, forcing the unit to operate with limited resources over extended periods of time. This loadout did not fail because it lacked basic equipment, but it revealed its limits when used outside the scope of raiding doctrine. Some items were not designed for prolonged jungle warfare, and those limitations became the pressure that drove later adjustments. This loadout therefore marks the moment when battlefield reality forced Marine Raiders' doctrine to change.